stay a while and listen.
Welcome back to the Agony of Positivity podcast. I am one of the hosts, Ross. I'm joined with the other host.
So,
very good. How you doing?
Doing good. And this is the pandemic episode, unlike the pre-pandemic episode you heard last week.
Yes, we had to do a best of because I was very tired and working and many other issues.
Well, it's funny. I was listening to it, and you were talking about your little journey that you did to go see Eric Church, I guess.
Yeah.
I was like, this is pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I was trying to decide which old episode to put up, and I was like, you know what? Let's see what the most downloaded episode is. And I was like, and
that's the most downloaded episode?
Yep, if you go by pure numbers. Now, why? And it's by like a hefty margin. So, yeah. I don't know if maybe the week before that we did something good that got some buzz, but yeah, that one was like 30% higher than the next closest one, I believe. And
it saddens me that Bigfoot's not there.
Yeah, well, you would think. Yeah. I mean, we've definitely had better episodes than that one, but what made me laugh was, so on that episode, you brought up like the kid who was doing the experiment to prove that Tom Brady is a cheater.
Yes.
But I was starting to talk about something, and I was like, oh Lord, we're about to just go off on like a 10-year-old child and tear apart something. And then I immediately said, now we're not going to attack a 10-year-old. And I was like, okay. It's like, uh-oh.
Well, it cracked me up because you're like, you said, like, well, I don't know why other teams have such a big problem with Tom Brady because Eli Manning was able to do it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like Tom Brady cheated in those games at all.
Sure.
Well, that was also pre you getting on board the Brady train.
That's right. That's before he had his gauntlet of power.
Yes.
That he's building in his basement or whatever.
So this is so unrelated to anything, but in wrestling, there was the Undertaker who had his urn, and then he feuded with Kama, the fighting machine, who stole the urn and melted it down into a necklace. Do you think there's ever been consideration to take the Super Bowl rings and melt them down into something else from Tom Brady? Like, has that ever occurred to him?
I think he would make a lot of people mad, which was why I think he should do it.
What if he melted them down into like a bracelet?
Yes.
Or an actual glove. Like, kept all the rhinestones and put them on like the knuckles. Sure. It really did make like that'd be pretty sweet. And he'd have one ring left over.
I really think he should make a gauntlet and bring it out every game, just as a as what's the word I'm looking for here? As a
like an entrance, a spectacle.
Well, no, like to tell the other team, like, hey, look, why is this word escaping me? The intimidation, that's it. Like an intimidation factor. Like, oh yeah,
so
there's Tom Brady's gauntlet that he has.
Would you? Because usually, like the NFL teams, like they'll play like the music for the home team, and then they run out. And in some cases, like the quarterback, like especially if they're the biggest star on the team, will run out last, kind of by themselves.
Yes.
So instead, like all of a sudden, like the lights go out if it's a night game or whatever, and there's just a spotlight with Tom Brady with like the Imperial March music. And he walks out holding the gauntlet up, just every game.
That'd be great. It would be. I would watch those games, and I might be a Buccaneers fan. I'd be like, yes, there he comes.
Or he's like holding onto a rope on top of the pirate ship, and like the spotlight's on the glove, and then he like zip lines down or something.
Oh yeah, that's what I want. I want
pro wrestling intros and.
I want Shawn Michaels, Tom Brady.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Bad people would be mad about that. So I don't know if this will help anyone or not. So have a Prius. One of the issues I had last week that was preventing me from recording was there's an error that will happen with a Toyota Prius called a P-lock error. And it's basically you try to start the car and it tells you need to apply like the parking brake or something and put it on level ground. Well, the issue is everything freezes up and you can't even put the car into neutral. It's just locked in park. So you would have to get like a flatbed truck with rollers or something to even be able to move the car because you can't put it in neutral. So I'm going to try later today. I got to pick up a new battery because they have like the magical Prius battery, but then they have like just the regular old-fashioned battery. It is possible that if your regular old battery dies, it will throw that, from what I found on YouTube. If it's not that, it's much more serious issues that are electrical that I don't know. Prius might just be hanging out for a while where it's currently abandoned.
Where's it at? Is it at your work?
Yeah. So it's mostly safe. It's funny, though, because when I started, there was like a Prius that people were like, oh, yeah, that Prius has been stuck there for 6 months. And now my Prius immediately, like that Prius got towed or fixed finally. But now my Prius is stuck there. It's like, oh, there can only be one.
Is it the same color?
Nah, I'm not sure. I never even noticed the other one. I didn't think to ask.
It would have been funny. That Prius has been there for like a year, but it's moved.
Body style changed a little bit. But so it was funny, though, because I was looking, because I went out to the car after work, and I was like, all right, wait, this won't start. What's going on? So I pulled up some YouTube videos. And the first 3 or 4 videos, I'm like, okay, so this guy's going to get to the fix. He's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, so if anybody can help me, put it in the comments. And I was like, are you kidding? Scroll through the comments. There's nothing really that's going to help me. Next video, I think basically like the top 3 or 4 videos came up where the people were like, I don't know what's wrong. And I was like, this isn't very good. It's one of those, man, this could be a number of things and nobody actually knows what causes it. So hopefully the battery will fix it. So if you have a Prius and all of a sudden you get that error, good luck. I will update. I will update in a future episode.
Send us an email and help us out here.
Yes, and if you're going to tell me that there is a potential wire connected to the headlight system that could potentially be shorted out, but you have to figure out which one it is and to fix it, that's going to be outside my my realm of comfort. That is one of the potential problems, is there is a faulty wire somewhere in the headlight wiring system. But it looks like it could be any of them.
So a little opener that I wanted to talk about today before we get on to our main thing, I guess. Passive aggressiveness. And I think we've talked about this before on the podcast.
I'm sure we have. It comes up a lot.
There's a guy at my current work, your old work. And people, I know we talked about this too. I'm not a morning person at all.
A ray of sunshine.
I don't claim to be a morning person at all.
This is very true.
So this guy, for whatever reason, this week he decided to start making little passive aggressive remarks. Hey, there's Grumpy Pants when I walk in the door, or hey, there's old Moody, or there's Raises Sunshine.
Right.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he made his little comments, and I knew eventually he's gonna catch me one day when I was in a bad mood, and I'm gonna say something to him. I already knew it.
Right. Well, and you're not, because like I'll occasionally, usually I'm just like, hey Saul, in the morning, but occasionally I'd be like, oh, there's, I'd make something like, like something occasionally, but it's like maybe once a month or something, like just because I thought of something that I thought was pretty clever, and see if I can get you to laugh in the morning. But it's not like So he's been doing this every day now?
Well, he stopped.
Well, right, but prior to what you're about to explain, like
Yes.
for some reason, every day he felt the need to do this all of a sudden?
This week he started doing it for whatever reason. I don't know why. And the difference is, like you making a little remark, is you and me are friends.
For quite a while.
Him and me are not really
friendly.
Yes. So I'm not going to give him any leeway with making comments that
right.
much.
Now, is it possible, because it's my thing, exploring the angles here, does he think that you guys are better friends than you are, perhaps?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
He might just not understand the situation.
Because this guy's a little the elevator don't go all the way up to the, to the top floor.
I would say more personality differences.
Oh yeah, be nicer. It's this is different personalities.
Right. Okay. So finally catches you on a bad day.
So Thursday, I came in and he makes a little comment like "Ray of sunshine," and I'm like, I sit down in the chair and I do this. I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, if we're gonna play this game of little passive, little jab, passive aggressive remarks, I have no problem with it because I actually have a few friends that are very passive aggressive. I mean, they like almost like if you didn't know we were friends, they're like, "Wow, that was."
You can't be like, "Man, you guys got some heat with each other or something."
Because I mean, they'll insult my mom or my sister, or I mean, just hard stuff.
Right.
Anyway, I was like, so I'm used to it. I could play this game. I'm like, the problem is you can't play this game, and he's looking at me. He's not saying a word. I was like, you can't handle it. Now, if I start playing this game, because I play kind of dirty, I'll go with it. I think that you're like, okay, well, you can handle it, so I'm just going to lay into you.
Right.
And I'm like, I already know you're not going to be able to handle it, so we need to stop playing this game in the mornings. You can say hi or say hey, and I'll make my little grunt or whatever.
Right.
And don't start talking to me until 11, 12, and I'm out of my mood, or I'm whatever.
Yeah, you've adjusted to being awake for the day.
Yes. I was like, but if you keep this up, we're going to make this a very hostile environment. I already know me. I know how I am, especially in the mornings. I don't really care if I hurt your feelings or not. So,
right.
Let's just not play this game. And everyone Thursday morning were just looking at me like, so it was very awkward that morning.
Well, because in their mind, it's like, man, I can't believe Saul got mad like that. But
and the funny thing is,
to me, it's more, even when I first knew you, so like, we had to like, and before I would consider us to be like friends like we are now. Like, I'd see you in the morning walking into the one place, I'd be like, hey, and you'd be like, oh, not a morning person. Okay. I'm still going to say hi. Whatever.
Sure.
But that was pretty much like, it was like, oh, he's not a morning person.
Sure.
Other than occasionally just being like as happy and cheerful as I can just to mess with him, I'm not going to really bother him in the morning.
Sure. Yeah. And the funny thing is, it kind of makes me mad about all this. Well, that doesn't really make me mad. I don't dwell on it, but I'm the bad guy.
Yes.
And all the three workers that work there were like, what is wrong with him?
Right. Yes, but you can tell that you've been around enough people who are doing passive aggressive stuff that you can tell when something's becoming a trend.
Yeah, and I know the road that we're going down, which is destruction, and I just stop it. But I'm the bad guy. That's what cracks me.
Well, to be fair, now I would have been like, oh, well, I mean, you keep poking him. What do you think he's going to do? Like, has there been anything he's done that makes you think that he wouldn't have like a confrontational reaction at a certain point? Because,
like a physical fight?
Well, no, just like you're not going to just sit there and if he's coming across super passive aggressive, which knowing what I know of stuff, like I could believe that he's not intending it that way. Yeah. But it's definitely coming across that way. Sure. Everyone knows you're not a morning person. So
Yes.
do it like pretty. I can't see how there's a surprise at the outcome to it. Basically,
Sure. Sure.
That's like if you knew somebody that they hated fish, and if you cooked fish in the microwave, they'd eventually throw up on everything, and then you just kept bringing in fish, and they eventually get sick. But I can't believe you got sick today. Really?
Sure.
That's a horrible analogy, but it's one of those things where, like, it's not like you pretend you're someone you're not.
Sure.
So
anyway, I just thought that was funny. That was my week. Friday, it stopped. Actually, no one said anything to me on Friday. So, which is how I like it, actually, because I
you can just get your work done and be
sounds.
I don't know. Maybe he was attempting to bond and just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, I mean, we'll send texts to each other every now and then about political stuff.
Yeah.
And, we'll make a little, but even then, I think he's more into political stuff than I am. I mean, I think it's all funny because I don't really trust any Democrat or Republicans.
Right.
So I think they're all crooked. And I'm able to laugh at all of it, but he's definitely set on one political.
Yeah, like he leans one way versus the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like he sees no problems with the party that he supports. I'm like, well, no, they're both crooked.
Yeah.
Oh no. It's like, anyway, yeah.
So we'll turn this first part of the show into a self-help episode here real quick. So, anxiety. So we've talked about this a lot too, but there is a perfect example for why, so I have anxiety about certain things. One of my biggest things, and it comes from growing up, is being misunderstood. So I tend, and I'm sure you can 100% vouch for this, I tend to over-explain to where a normal person is like, oh my God, just stop. I get it. But I need to feel that I've left nothing to chance for the comprehension. So at our work, there's basically the inside joke or the work joke that if you quit, you leave a note that says to the owners of the company, because one guy quit and left apparently it was supposed to be like a mean note, but it was hilarious for it. So when I dropped off like my key and my uniform, I wrote out the opening to the letter, then I just put etc. because everyone like it's all just a joke. And I was like, when I left, I honestly was like, because shocker, I was there before anybody else, even when I don't work there anymore. I was like, I was concerned about a couple people possibly seeing that and misunderstanding it. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous because everyone there has talked about the initial letter and then there's a subsequent guy who left something like that kind of funny or whatever. I think he wrote it like word for word. But so even though it's completely ridiculous of me to think that someone would misunderstand that, it was still on my mind. And then I eventually got it out of my head, but I was still kind of worried about it. And then lo and behold, like hours later, you sent me a message that someone had misinterpreted it.
Yep.
And I was like, at that I was like, this is exactly why I have anxiety, is because people just don't understand.
Well, yeah.
So for anyone who deals with the same kind of anxiety, know at least I have the same thing, where being misunderstood is a horrible fear, and you think you're doing good, and then all of a sudden someone reinforces the exact thing that you're afraid of.
Sure.
And that one, I was like, there's no way you could misunderstand this. Everyone there knows that that's the joke, but apparently not.
So to dive a little deeper into your anxiety issue here, because I don't have this. I mean, I have dealt with anxiety because I've had recently with severe panic attacks and everything.
Yeah.
So is that like something that can really get you? like really into like a panic attack, I guess.
Not
like that.
It's not anxiety that causes a panic, but it takes up a lot of mental energy. Like
really?
To where there are certain things, like if I have to have, like if I explain, like this letter is a good example. So
Yeah.
leave that. It's like, haha, that's funny. As I'm pulling away, I'm like, you know, I could see a world where someone just, for some reason, interprets that's wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's impossible.
Yeah.
So as I'm driving home, because I like had done one thing, dropped that off, and was headed, I might have been headed to work for a training thing. I can't remember where I was going, but like that entire ride, I was like wondering if that was a mistake. So
okay.
Throughout the rest of that day until you sent me that message, like it would pop into my mind constantly. I'd be like, oh, maybe that was a bad idea, even though it shouldn't have been. So,
yeah.
And it goes to, if, say I'm at work somewhere and I have like we'll call it, you know, like a disagreement, or, hey, this is why I think we should do it this way. Like obviously in my mind, like I see all the steps leading to me thinking it should be a certain way. And it's hard to explain, oh, we should do this way because of this. And it will bother me that the person misunderstands that I'm like completely discounting their idea and saying mine is better, when it's like, I'm just saying there's a different way and this is my concern. So stuff like that, it worries me that people don't understand my intent and they will take it as me like dismissing them or something like that.
Gotcha.
When that's in no way is that my intent usually. Unless their idea is like absolutely awful, then yes. But I don't worry about that because I meant to tell them their idea was horrible.
Yes.
But if it's just like, you know, like there's two ways of doing something and it's like, well, yeah, I think cutting down the tree like this is a good idea. However, what I'm concerned about with your way is we're not using a rope to steer it. And on the off chance that it starts to break to the right, we have no chance of doing anything about it. Like something like, you know, like that's a weird analogy, but I've been chopping a lot of trees in Valheim. So trees falling on you is a very real thing in my mind right now. But yeah, so it's basically, it's not that I'm going to be like, you know, like I'm not going to like be thrown into like a full-blown panic attack or anything about it. But instead of thinking about something current or whatever, my mind will go to that situation and I'll be like, oh, is there a better way I could have done that? And it's very tiresome. And then you'll get people who like, they basically reinforce exactly what you were afraid of would happen. And it's like, you can look at it like once it happens, like usually I'm like, I can't believe that they would interpret it that way, even though I was afraid of it. Because it's like, it's such a leap to get to that point, but every time that happens, it just reinforces what you have an anxiety about. And it's like, you just don't break the cycle, basically. Because like, you'll be fine, and then all of a sudden it's like, I can't believe they figured it that way. All right.
Yeah.
So then you're like, you become very careful and you over-explain. Yeah. Because I had a boss at a job that told me, it was like, yeah, it's like an anxiety that you have. And I was like, is it? And I had to think on it for a while before I figured it out. And yeah, it is. It's not wanting to be misunderstood, basically. But yeah, so it never gets more than just like a bunch of wasted mental energy, but it still sucks. Like, I would love to not do it.
Yeah. Well, I remember like being well, you probably witnessed me doing this a couple times this past couple months. It's eventually stopped now, because you know I'm a very spiritual person, so I've been praying a lot.
Yeah,
and it's helped me break this habit I was getting. But I would check my heart rate, like every couple minutes or whatever. And the more and more I checked my heart rate, well, I was getting more and more anxiety over it because it started beating faster.
Right, because you're freaking out about it.
I'm freaking out about it. And I eventually have learned that, like, well, you're freaking yourself out. So, yeah, your heart rate is going to start increasing more because you're, so.
Well, and even when you know it, it's hard to correct, though.
It is, yeah.
Because, like, I was kind of sick the other day and went to work, and, I had just had a COVID test, so not COVID or anything like that, just like that, feeling kind of bad, but for some reason I was having like trouble breathing, and I don't know if it was caffeine on an empty stomach and my body was all jacked up, but since I was feeling bad, it was stressing it out. But it was like, I'm having I'm taking like half breaths, and like I'm trying to stop every so often. Like I'm still trying to get my job done, but I'm trying to take deep breaths every so often, and it's just not working out. And it's like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know that I can breathe normal. I can make myself do it. For some reason, my natural reflex isn't working the way it should to breathe. Got to fix it. But then it's like, oh man, what if this lasts all day? I got to make it the whole day like this? I'm going to die. And it just stacks on top of itself, where even like I knew that it was very likely just something for some reason I was freaking out about, but I couldn't, eventually I got myself distracted enough where it went away. But in the moment, even when it's really hard. Well,
it's the best way I can describe it to people that's never experienced it. It's kind of like Tetris when you start making bad moves and it's just stacking up, and you're like, oh no, and you're focusing on your mistakes
and not the solution.
Yes.
Yeah, you're just instead of trying to plan out where to put the next block, you're just getting it out of the way.
Yep.
That's actually a really good analogy.
I know.
Did you come up with that, or did you hear someone else explain it that way?
Well, I got to give credit where credit's due. I was reading it on a panic attack. I was on a panic. I was reading up about panic attacks, and they said it. But they basically said that when you're having a panic attack, stuff like that, you have to focus on something other than breathing or whatever your issue is, and it's hard. Trust me, I 100% understand.
Because it's like a blaring horn.
Yes. But you focus on something that's not related to the issues you're having. You're having breathing problems,
right?
Caused by panic attack, not like a physical virus or something, but caused by a panic attack. Is you focus on something like I don't know, like a rock. You okay, I need to look for a rock in my yard, and your brain focuses on the rock and not on the panic attack part. So.
If I went out to my yard and Dwayne Johnson was just sitting in the middle of the yard, that would get my mind off it.
He is dreamy.
Yes. I was thinking more, be like, I don't think this is the first time I've made reference to Dwayne Johnson being in my backyard for some reason.
I'd be a little shocked that might get you out of the panic attack too. You'd be like, why is Dwayne Johnson in my backyard?
Especially where I live, there would be absolutely no possible reason that he would be there.
But I want him in the Rock outfit though. I don't want him in his normal movie. I want him in the rest of the Rock.
Like the tights or the tracksuit?
The tights. I want him with
just full trunks and boots.
Yes. Do you smell?
Why is The Rock cutting a promo on my trees? What is going on? Trees and the squirrels.
He's just assaulting everything in your backyard.
So seems like we talk about the anxiety, the panic attacks, those kind of things a lot. But for myself, it's kind of therapeutic in a way. Sometimes I gain some other understanding. So hopefully if there's people listening, there's a good chance you're not listening to hear our random banter. But if it's any use to you at all, then fantastic. Because I know, there's a weird, it doesn't seem weird to me because, we talk about it all the time, just even, not on the show. Some people get real weird about talking about anxiety and stuff.
Yeah, I don't understand why.
Well, does that go with, people don't talk about mental health? I think this would fall under mental health, but, you see people, where they, just bluntly, they've offed themselves. And there's, when you look at it, there's all these, mental health things, but it's, and then, people are kind of aware of it, but then like
Well,
no one really talks about it after the fact, and like people always seem like super weird to talk about like just any mental health.
Well, it's because if you never went through it,
yeah,
perfect example. Because so my dad, when I had my severe panic attack, came to the hospital because I was in the emergency room type thing. Because they thought I had a heart attack or whatever.
Right.
But so they go in there and they find out it was pretty much just a panic attack, which I knew it was a severe panic attack.
Right.
My dad comes in there and he's like, "What's wrong with you, boy?" I was like, "Well, I probably had a panic attack." He's like, "Panic attack? What you scared of?" In his mind, he's never had one. He's like, "What scared you?" I was like, "No, panic attack." I'm like, "It just emotions overwhelm me." Well, just stop thinking about it. I was like, "Oh,
yes,
okay."
Be like, can you swim? Because if I throw you in water and you can't swim, and my solution is, well, just swim.
Yes. So people for example, like my dad. I mean, he's never experienced it, so he doesn't know how to deal with somebody that's dealing with it. So he's just like, well, just don't think about it.
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, which is correct. However, it's not that simple.
Yes. You have to give people solutions on how to not think about it.
Right. Well, and I guess too, because like I'm sure there's
use
like,
your swimming to use your swimming as a thing. So if I'm drowning, my dad be like, well, "Just swim." Well, I don't know how to swim.
Like, well, better learn.
Thanks.
As opposed to like, well, try floating on your back. Like, hey, arch your back, or like something useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dogs are freaking out. I don't know if it's going to come through. You might hear a little bit of barking in the background.
I hear a little bit of barking, but
okay.
Not a lot.
Sometimes you might hear it, but it won't come through on the recording. We'll see. I think they'll stop in a few minutes. There's probably, who knows? There's probably like a bird outside or something. I don't know. Like
that's how my dogs are. But
like chainsaw, no barking. Squirrel, barking.
Yeah, so if people are suffering panic attacks and stuff like that, I completely understand it. It does get better. Just talk to people that's experienced panic attacks. Don't talk to someone like
or people that are open-minded about it. I mean,
yeah.
just something.
Yeah.
But I guess it would be hard too. Like also if you've never experienced that and you're getting kind of older, and then all of a sudden it comes on, like there's probably what's wrong with me? Like,
yep.
I don't know. I mean, like men, and now I don't know. It always feels, and I always see like the studies where men basically just ignore health problems, and then all of a sudden they die. I don't see that as much with women from the studies I see pop up places, but maybe it's the same thing. But like men, we are very bad about like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Well, let's see if it gets better. Yeah, sure. We'll just keep going on and see what happens. Like I've had a few issues where it's like, well, we'll see if it gets better, and then
sometimes it does. Sometimes it corrects.
Yeah, I mean, I fell down one. Like I had like a real messed up left shoulder. Fell down, caught myself with a straight arm, and it did something to the shoulder that I haven't had the same kind of problem since. Now my other shoulder, I've not been able to fall on it, so I don't know if I can fix it by falling or if it's going to be like a serious issue. Because it goes in and out, but we'll see. I'll eventually go to a doctor at a certain point though, because it's going on the better part of a year. Yeah. And I would like to, I mean, it's way better than it was. But it's one of those like just suffer through it. And then I'll be like, oh man, my shoulder is really acting up today. And my wife will be like, that still hurts? I'll be like, well, it never stopped. She's like, well, I didn't even know. I'm like, well, what good? It's like, what good is talking about it going to do? Because it's not going to fix it. Like trying to do like rehab exercises or a doctor are the logical answers. Like as far as like physically doing something about it, talking about it. Yeah. I'll just suffer in silence.
Don't worry. If you go to the doctor enough, they'll find something wrong with you.
Yes. Well, for a shoulder, I'd be more than willing to have something wrong with me that they can point to fix. Let's see.
It's because you on some of that medication.
Yeah. Can I have some of them opioids?
Yes.
You know, I feel like this is pretty neutral. I think everyone agrees the whole opioid thing was real bad. They were talking about a doctor.
I would hope so, yes.
Like, they were talking about a doctor that they were trying for, basically, like, overprescribing, like, opioids and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, basically, he downplayed, like, certain, like, things of them to, like, prescribe them in cases that they shouldn't have. And as soon as I heard, I was like, is this doctor being a fall guy on this, though? Because there were certain things that the manufacturers were telling doctors that, like, the addictiveness was overplayed and it really wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
When they were initially going out. Now, I don't know what due diligence doctors have to, like, research stuff, but if the manufacturer of the drug who's done, like, testing theoretically is telling you it's not addictive, isn't that your guidelines to follow? I would think. And then I'll, like, because you're not going to find out for months that, there's a problem. But I just thought, I was just wondering about that, like, because that whole thing was a mess.
Sure.
I don't know. It's funny because, like, you don't hear about it in the news nearly as often as you did. So I don't know if it's still as big of a problem and we've just moved on the news cycle to something else. Or is it worse than it was and we just haven't heard about it? Let's see.
The news media, I have my opinions on them.
Yes. Much like both parties are not good, most news stations are very opinionated.
There's no most. All news stations are just cancer. I'm sorry. They're just pure cancer because they just fear-mongering.
It feels like there's a lot of that, like where everything's blown out of proportion. Then you never get retractions or anything. It's sad. Well, it's like we said before the show started, like human beings are bad. Like we're all terrible.
So are we ready to
go into an actual topic for the show?
we're just like ranting and raving.
Yes. I'll definitely have to put What's that?
Let's talk about your Viking game. You want to talk about your Viking game?
Oh yeah, Vikings are awesome. So Valheim. Hold on, I gotta do which one? Let's do this one.
Get over here! Time's up. Let's do this.
All right.
So
Valheim.
I heard on last week's podcast a bumper that we have not used in a long time where my wife's like, this week in the news.
Yes.
I was like, oh yeah, we did have
I still have that. Like I have an external hard drive with basically every episode and every bumper or logo we have used. Which the new logo is still coming. I just haven't had time to get it to the final stages. Also, it's very hard to make like a JPEG have a goldish look to lettering. It's very disappointing because I'm not exactly good with Photoshop. So
you have to know Ross. He's very particular about certain things. So I just let him.
Well, it's
I offer ideas, but if he has something he likes, I'm just like, I'll just go with it.
I'm always open to simpler ideas for sure. I'm making a note. Remind me when we're done. Something for music. You had sent me something. Gotcha. Okay, so Valheim. So this game, I was talking about it like 2 weeks ago. I hadn't really gotten very far into it. I've now played it for 45 hours. Probably 44 hours has been me cutting down trees to prove a point to nature. So basically like, so when I bought it, I was just trying it out. I had planned to play like less than 2 hours and probably refund it. Like, cause I was like, it's not going to be that good. Blew past the refund phase pretty quickly. Which surprised me because Conan Exiles is basically what I want out of this style game at this point. I like the swords. I like bows and arrows. I like axes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like that somewhat high fantasy type setting.
Sure.
So Conan's pretty good with that, except Conan, your body launches into outer space and you can't retrieve your items that you spent a lot of time to make. So pretty big deal breaker at a certain point there. So Valheim building, I was talking about it previously where I wasn't sure how I felt on it. Now that I played around with it more, I pretty much understand the building to it.
Okay.
It's different, but it's good. Like I just got done. It took me like the better part of a day, I think. Like if you were to look at like the slash played for it, it probably took me 8 hours. I rebuilt a new base. That basically it's what we ran into with Conan. I think anyone who plays one of these games for the first time, or you're just trying to get into the game, so you're like, well, I might not actually get into this game enough to play it a lot, so I'm just going to kind of throw these crafting stations wherever. And like your base is just a mess because you weren't intending it to be permanent. So I got to that point and I was like, oh crap. So there's bosses that you can kill basically. Kill the first boss and then start like got some like stronger stuff like so in Valheim to get like metal of any kind, you basically have to kill the first boss. And that allows you to make like a pickaxe. So once you get the pickaxe, you can go and get like your copper and your tin and that kind of stuff. You can melt it down, make bronze, and then you can get like a bronze pickaxe, like basically all your bronze weapons. So you can kit yourself out with that. Bronze arrows, whatever. The bronze axe lets you cut down different types of trees than you were able to before. So pretty natural progression. When you kill the second boss, you get a key that takes you into like a swamp biome. Or you don't need that, but it lets you access like certain things within the swamp. So each world you're on, like I just did a random, like there's a seed to generate the world, kind of like Minecraft has. So when you create a world, you don't know where stuff's going to spawn. So I was just playing on a random seed. So I had to find the swamp. Basically is like the next place that my destination is. So you can build a raft and there's like sea and ocean travel in this game. So I'm going to tell you right now, the raft is garbage. The raft, I died. There's not a lot of controlling the raft. It kind of felt like eventually you get to where you can make bronze nails and you can build like a more proper ship. So I began exploring the world trying to find a swamp. Finally found the swamp. There's another interesting feature that Valheim has that I wish other games had. Conan kind of has this. And games like Ark might have it as well, but I haven't played far enough into them to get to it. So maybe this is standard now. Conan had like the portal room that you could make, or the map room, where you could unlock an obelisk and go to a certain place. Well, Valheim, you can actually make a portal, and you can just put it wherever you want. So you can put a portal in your base and name it like Tim Hortons. And if you're exploring the world somewhere and you find, somewhere like, oh, this is a good place, I need to be here, you can build a portal wherever you're at, name it the same thing. It'll take you back to, you can portal back and forth between those places. So it's not like a set location. Like you can make it wherever you want.
Gotcha.
So when I saw the swamp, I was like, oh, I should stop and drop this portal so I can get back here if I need to. And I was like, it won't be that bad. I'm just trying to see what's in the swamp. I immediately died. So the swamp, everything poisons you. There is a potion you can make that gives you poison resistance. I have mostly played this game blind, and I have looked up very little stuff. Just because I like the exploration to it. So I was like, oh man, I got just nuked by this thing. There's got to be something for poison. And I was looking through my recipes for things, and I was like, oh, well, I could just make this. So made that. The other problem I had is because I didn't drop my portal, it took me a whole lot of sailing to get to where I was.
Yeah.
So I had no gear because I basically had all my best stuff on my guy because I didn't think I was going to die. The difference, so you start in the meadows and then you go to the Black Forest. Like those are the two starter zones, kind of.
Yeah.
The difference from the meadows to the Black Forest, not that big of a jump. So I was like, oh, I'm pretty leveled up. I should be fine going into the swamp. No, it is quite the big jump.
Yeah.
So I had to go through, like, remake a couple pieces of gear and rebuild my boat and get the wind to go the right direction. Wind kind of matters when you're on the boat. Finally got back to where my body was. What's that? Yeah. And actually built, like, a small base to put the portal. So if I did screw up again, that I could at least get it back. So it took me basically an entire day's worth of gameplay, split over 2 days, was me discovering the swamp, dying, rebuilding enough stuff to go and get my body. And then, so at that point I was like, well, this is actually a better location. So started rebuilding a base, and I was like, well, I'm going to build this where I can actually keep this for a while, because this seems like a pretty central point. But yeah, and then it was just a matter of, like, you got to farm your resources to build stuff. You can do, like, I don't know if you'll be able to do it once it properly releases, but they have, like, a cheat mode where you have, like, GM commands and all that stuff, but I'm not using that.
Sure.
Which,
Conan has it.
Right. Well, and I've thought about doing it, but just because, like, I don't know how much they're going to change it when it goes to a full release, but, like, I don't know. So now something I find that's interesting with this is if, say you were to start to play, you could basically give me, like, you could create a server and I could join you. And I can actually take my character and bring resources with me, like whatever I can keep on myself. Or if you were to play it.
Do they have servers?
I think at this point they just have like I could create a server and I could probably make it like an open server where people could drop in if they wanted. But I think right now it's just designed as like a multiplayer game, like single or multiplayer. Like you're not just going to be on a server with random people.
No, so I'm saying, like, if you just create a server, do you have to have a server at your house, or do they have servers where you can?
No, it would run. You could run. But I was reading through their. I think they're planning to have proper servers like other games would, but I don't know. The thing is, like, every world is procedurally generated, so it's always going to be different.
Well, because I always thought it's funny when people complained about how World of Warcraft or Blizzard ran World of Warcraft. I'm like, you guys don't even know how great you have it on World of Warcraft compared to, like, Conan. So
yeah. Well, like, I've never gone to Warcraft and tried to go to the server my character's on, and it'd be gone just forever. Like, it'll at least say, Undermine's down. Okay. That that happens from time. It's never been not listed and just out of existence.
Well, like, for example, like, I was a couple days ago, actually. I have a character that I created back in Wrath.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a hut somewhere. I've not played him since Wrath. You know what? He's still there. He's not been erased. So, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to just gone.
Yes.
Yeah, but the one of the other things I could see that might give this game some replayability is, say you're playing it and, like, you have, like, your own world where you're doing your own thing, but, like, we decide to create a new world for a night to play, and we bring like the resources we need, basically to just see like how many of the bosses we could kill in a night, like starting from scratch and like just blitz down the first couple and then try to get to the other. Like I could see there definitely being some things you could do, to like kind of make a game out of the game itself. But it's, I mean, I'm not far at all. It doesn't feel like I've seen people. There's like a flame sword that you can get, which is pretty sweet. But I'm assuming that's pretty advanced. Like the place I made my new base, I guess one of the worst, toughest, I don't know how you want to explain it, biomes is the plains, and I'm actually like super close to the plains where I'm at. So I like there's a big animal over there called a lox, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to kill this thing, and man, I almost died quite a few times. Like I cheesed it pretty much. Like I pretty much got on top of a big rock and shot it with arrows. So much like rhinos in Conan's Exiles, when you're not quite ready for them, but you can still kill them. It took forever. And then some little, I don't know what he is. It's a furling, but it's almost like a goblin. Started chasing me, and he one-shot me down to 1 health. And then I drank a potion and ran away and shot him with arrows because I couldn't, like Warcraft, like things will leash after a certain distance.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I could have kited this guy to the other side of the world, and he would not have left me alone. And like, I don't even know where he came from. Like, he just dropped from the sky.
You kind of sold me on it. I might start playing it. The problem is playing games with you is incredibly.
And currently, it's going to be awful because I have a stretch where I work 6 days in a row.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I would say though is this would be good because you could play it on your own to advance your character, and then we could just have a world that we would jump into and basically try crazy stuff.
Oh, so your characters would keep everything that you...
Yeah. So that's... Yeah, maybe I didn't explain that very well. But yeah, so like I have my character...
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I don't
know. I might not have explained it well. But yeah, so I have him. And when you... Basically, you select your character first.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you would have multiple characters. Like, I unless you just wanted the fun of like starting from scratch. But yeah, so I picked my character. And then you pick the world to go into.
Yeah.
So like I could pick like my dude, and I can either go into like my home world, or we could make like the agony of positivity world and do like a random seed or whatever, and then we just get dropped to the starting point, and we would only have the gear that we have on us. But you could basically like before starting it up be like, okay, we want to have this much of these materials so we can build a boat straight away and start sailing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's like, I think that's a kind of interesting, and if you find good resources or something cool, you can bring that back with you to your home world.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing it at this point, but I'm not sure. There is a merchant that you can find that will sell you stuff. Like the merchant has like a fishing pole, and it has a belt that lets you carry, I think it's 150 pounds of additional weight on your character. The thing is, you got
the weight thing going on.
Yeah.
Oblivion had that.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I don't know if I like the weight thing.
I mean, Conan had it too, where you'd become encumbered. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, they got to kind of now. This does have actually. I forgot about this. This is pretty good. So. When you're mining your copper and ore, you can actually build a cart in this game.
Yeah.
So you can, and then you like, it's a 2-handle pull behind cart, but you can build a cart, take it with you to like your mining site, and then as you get like, say like it's 300 initially, like say you're at like 296 with all your ore and everything, you can put your ore onto the cart and then continue mining, and then so or if you're just going out harvesting like a ton of rock and wood. If you got the cart, and it has like a lot of storage space. So I actually have one set up in my base that I just use for like a miscellaneous thing right now. But yeah, you can take the cart, fill it up with your ore and stuff so that you're only making like 1 or 2 trips as opposed to constantly having to run back.
Gotcha.
So that kind of makes it a little bit better. You can make like a paved road if you want. I don't know the benefit to that yet, so I haven't really done that. But there's some. It's like, oh, there's a limit here, but there's a way to get around that. Because usually you can carry like maybe 20 ore with your normal stuff, but with the cart you can have like 60. Now my character, like, I'm afraid of the dark, so when it gets nighttime in the game, I go back to my base, much like I would in real life. So I don't. Very seldom do I like mine through the night.
Do you have you broken the mechanics of like you did in Conan Exiles?
I have not.
The goal was to make sunlight at night.
They have torches that you can build. I have not gone totally overboard with seeing how many torches I can put in a zone.
Yes.
Because the torches in this, like, there's a resin is one of the things. Like when you chop down trees, or there's these dudes you kill that give you resin. So you can so all your fires and stuff need fuel, but like the normal, like the campfire or whatever, it's not near. What's that?
So like, okay, if you build a torch, you have to keep making the torch.
The torch has like a timer on it, but like it's super easy to make. Like you can make a torch anywhere. You basically need one piece of wood and one piece of resin. It's impossible to not have that. Like,
sure.
So it's pretty reasonable to get. I mean, like, anything that gives you wood is likely to give you resin. So, I don't feel like the torches give off as much light as they do in Conan.
Yeah.
But like, so even like your stick in the ground torches, they use resin as fuel. But like, you hardly ever have to refill them.
Gotcha.
So stuff like that. Now, when you're burning, so they have a kiln that you can take wood and you can get coal. Like basically, you put it in and it gives you coal, and then your smelter for melting down your ores uses the coal. Now that fuel is kind of a pain to deal with because it like burns through it. Usually, it's better once it's night. Just fill them both up with everything. And when you go to your bed, you can skip to morning, basically. And then it runs during that time, so it'll be taken care of that way. My biggest complaint with that is the kiln will give you 25 coal if you max it out. The smelter only loads 20 coal instead of loading 25. Why would you do that? I would honestly be okay if they brought the kiln down to 20. I just want the numbers to match.
Gotcha.
So,
all right, well, so I'm on their website here. It says they sold over 4 million copies.
Yeah, which is insane.
Weeks. Yeah.
I would have never thought. Now, I think some of it is the price point too. $20 is pretty reasonable.
Sure.
It's a 1 gig download, so I think that has to help a little bit. Because I was looking at it, I was like, oh, it's only a 1 gig. Because that's. I was like, I might want to try this game because I saw a few people talk about it and it looked kind of cool. And I was like, well, this is the kind of game that I could theoretically like. Oh, and it's 1 gig. So it'll be downloaded in no time. Whereas, like if you were to reinstall Conan right now, like even with a really good connection, you're waiting an hour or two minimum for Conan to install when it's like 64 gigs or whatever. Considering we don't live in a privileged part of the world that gets like the multi-gig down or anything like that. Or at least mine is. I don't know what yours is, but I'm definitely nowhere near a gig down. So reasonable price point that. It doesn't break. If you build high enough, snow will start collecting on stuff.
That's cool.
So I haven't tried to build the Tower of Babel yet. To see how high I can build, but it's only a matter of time.
Sure. All right. Well, since we talked a lot about that, you want to maybe close up with AEW or anything?
Yeah, let's hit it real quick.
Wrestling news.
Yeah, let's see. We're gonna do Britt and her sandwich.
Why did Britt take her shoe off to eat that sandwich?
Still my favorite thing ever that's ever happened on AEW. So this week. There's going to be some spoilers for something New Japan related I want to talk about real quick.
Okay.
But so, and we'll do that first, and then if you skip like a minute, you're probably fine. Kenta and Moxley had their match for the New Japan title, U.S. title, and Moxley actually won that. So,
really,
yes, I thought for sure that Kenta was going to win it to get it back with New Japan, but perhaps that means they are going to continue working, and there'll be time in the future for Moxley to drop it to somebody.
Well, he was threatening Moxley on Twitter, or
yeah,
I don't know, somewhere where he was threatening the Bullet Club. So,
yeah, I mean, at some point with Moxley's wife having a child soon, you would assume he's going to like disappear for a few months for the. I would assume
Kenny Omega is going to do that next weekend.
Yes, when he blows him up.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're obviously skipping the previous week since we didn't do the show. So we just have to assume you know what's going on there. But yeah, Moxley beat up not Dolph Ziggler this week. Like,
yeah.
I honestly didn't watch it too much because the match was not what really mattered.
Sure.
So basically, he cuts promo. If you look at Moxley's promo history for matches, he usually tells you what is going to happen in the promo. Like when he when he fought Lance Archer, it'd be that he would barely escape him or something like that. And that's kind of how that match was he made it through by the skin of his teeth kind of thing, different stuff. But this one, he's basically saying that being blown up in a barbed wire exploding death match or whatever would be a heck of a way to go out.
Sure.
So, the only exploding match I've ever watched was, did you ever see, this is strange, but you might have actually seen it. ICP did a wrestling video once where they did commentary.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And there's the exploding match.
I don't know how I've seen it, but
right.
I've seen it. Yes.
They were pretty funny on commentary. Like, they did a pretty good job. But yeah, I think it was Cactus Jack and Cactus Jack and somebody else, but it was an exploding match where the timer went off and everybody just like kind of hit the ground, and then it was just like big pyro. And they were like, well, that did nothing. So like, I don't know how the explosion is supposed to work.
Yeah.
I have the feeling that something insane will probably happen on this. But yeah, I got to assume that Moxley is going to get written off here. And whether it's they pull like an Undertaker thing where like the Bullet Club all come out and beat Moxley up during the match, and it takes everybody to take him out, and that gives him something to do when he comes back. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to watch. This pay-per-view has gotten me more interested in the last pay-per-view. I'll just say that. Yeah,
well, they're hitting their stride on the TV building up to the pay-per-view seems pretty good for this one. And I mean, last year Revolution was probably the best pay-per-view, I thought. Compared to a lot of them.
Then the pandemic happened.
Yeah, it just derailed everything. So we get next match. Again, the match itself doesn't really matter so much as like the after of it. But you got Cage and Starks against the Varsity Blondes, and the match it was a good match. I like Pillman and Garrison as a team.
Oh.
Like, they wear matching tights. Like, they do tag team stuff. It's pretty good. Brian Pillman, you can be real bored and watch him play WoW on Twitch occasionally. He is not the most entertaining streamer, I will say.
He needs to be more like his dad, I think.
I don't know.
If he was like his dad and like coat himself in baby oil as he's playing World of Warcraft,
that would be pretty funny.
Yeah,
and it could be too that it's like he's just like chilling at his house doing that, so he's not on. Like, he doesn't feel that he has to be like a performer at that point, which is fine.
Sure.
But and like streaming is has to be weird trying to interact with your chat and pay attention to something.
You have to have a really good personality, especially if you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah. Well, and
like Asmik Gold and Wow Hobbs is probably the best people I've seen actually interact with
near people.
Right. Well, and they, like, at least Asman, like, he creates content based around interacting with the people.
Yes.
Which is...
Swifty's pretty good. Well, at least one time, I don't know if he still does it anymore, but he was pretty good at it, too.
Yeah. But, because, like, WoW's not a very good game to watch unless...
No.
Because there's a couple people I watch that just do progression and stuff, and it's like... I'll watch it because when they're interacting or they're just talking about stuff, they're entertaining. But there's a lot of downtime where you're like, this isn't very exciting. Because obviously if they're trying to progress on a mythic raid, they're not going to be talking. So it's like, eh.
Yeah.
But anyway, so into the match, we get Sting. Well, actually, first we get the video of, I don't know. On the AEW website, they say a video is played of Sting rescuing Darby Allin. It looked like to me that Sting was I thought Sting was driving the car with Darby.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He was dragging Darby in the body bag.
Yeah.
And Sting lets him out, and Darby just seems like he enjoyed it. So
right.
Like,
that was my thought, is that it was more that Sting was doing that, and Darby doesn't care to be dragged. Like, basically what Team Taz did to him doesn't bother him. Like, that's his kind of thing where he's like, oh, yeah, that's sweet.
Yes.
But, yeah, so Sting comes out. So last week, Sting took the power bomb from Cage. Probably one of the most safe, like, I mean, Sting landed about as flat as you could for a power bomb.
Yeah.
And as big as Cage is, I'm sure he can manhandle just about anyone. So it seems like...
sure.
Now... My brain went to, ooh, isn't Sting's back hurt? Apparently he's been medically cleared. So, and I mean, that's really just like a back bump. So, but I mean, there's definitely some zip on that power bomb.
That and he wasn't getting thrown into a turnbuckle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The buckle bomb is scary. But either way, so yeah, Sting drags a body bag out onto stage. It's Hook. I like Taz's reaction on commentary. Like, I can't believe that somebody would do something so horrible and be like, didn't you just drag Darby, like, as you said, to FTW World, wherever that is?
Yes.
I believe it's right next to Parts Unknown.
Yeah.
But then, so he's got him distracted there. He points to the rafters, and Darby Allin ziplines down to the ring with a skateboard. So, what do you think of Sting's like offense against Cage, where he got like the Stinger Splash and the Death Drop on him?
No, I thought he still had it. I mean, you know, he's older, but
right.
Yeah, I think he still has it. So
I mean, if he's just going for like one match and they're just careful with what they have him doing, I liked the. He might have done this in TNA, and I just didn't watch any TNA, so I don't really know. He hit the Stinger Splash, and when Cage came out, he kind of like kicked the back of the knee to drop him down to hook in the Death Drop.
Yeah,
I like that little touch to it because it made it just looked smoother than him like pulling Cage back and trying to catch it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
so this is kind of something has come up to where I have to kind of leave during the show. I don't know if you want to keep doing the show.
Yeah, I'll run through it real quick.
But it's nothing important or anything. Just something has come up to where I'm going to have to leave.
Your house isn't on fire and nobody's...
yeah
nobody's on fire.
My house is not on fire or anything. I just have to leave.
Yeah, it's fine.
I hate to leave, but you guys, you have a great week, and I will see you next week.
All right, I'll catch you later.
See you, man.
Covered, and there's so much more.
All right, so Saul has left, but we will go ahead and finish this up. Give me 1 second here. Oh. There we go. So, something else with this. I wanted to get Saul's opinion, but just kind of talk about general stuff here. A lot of people were real critical. Now, I'm basing this on reading stuff on Reddit, where the Darby Sting thing, like, they felt it was taking a long time, and they weren't really digging the build up to the match. But it seems like over the last couple weeks where there was actually some physicality, we were like, well, maybe it was worth waiting for stuff to happen because it's kind of ramped up pretty good. it's definitely been like a slow build where they've kind of kept everybody away from each other to some degree. But yeah, like to me, I've been fine with it, but I think I'm more patient than Saul when it comes to the storytelling, just because I've seen the super rushed stories where you're just like, man, that just seemed like, it's basically a 3-week build for something that feels like it should take like 2 or 3 months maybe. But like the monthly pay-per-view method of WWE kind of compacts things, and you don't really get like that longer story build up to it. I'm not sure. So we get, after that, another interview by Tony Schiavone that doesn't get interrupted. Basically, Crazy Miro. In all honesty, Miro, Kip, and Penelope are the good guys in this situation at this point. Like, Chuck Taylor agreed to the terms of a match and lost, so he had to pay it off. During the wedding, he decides to handcuff Miro's leg, or leg cuff, however you want to view it, and ruin their wedding. I mean, they're kind of the bad guys there. And benevolent Miro has offered Charles the opportunity to come back. He does not like Orange Cassidy, though. Now, Saul would be talking about how horrible the best friends are at this point, but I was amused by the "will you wrestle us, yes, no, maybe" sign. But I don't know. I've started to enjoy Miro more. He's a little more psychopathic. I mean, it's got to build him back up, I guess, because, well, I don't know. Poor Miro in weddings on wrestling. Brandon Cutler, Jake Hager. Yeah, Hager wins. What a shock. Basically, this leads to Papa Buck getting beat up by Jericho and MJF. They did like the bloody truck poster thing with MJF and Jericho and the dad. Curious how they'll follow that up. I saw something where they're supposed to do like a press conference asking questions next week. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really not sure what's going to happen at Revolution, because it would make sense for Jericho and MJF to win at some kind of outside interference, but I could see MJF turning on Jericho. I wouldn't be shocked if Jericho turned on MJF. Like, there's a lot of ways that I could logically see it going, but you would think that there would have to be some kind of revenge from the Bucks, since the dad got beat up. So this, they got like the Crossroads, Shaq and Cody and Jade and Red Velvet. I am going to watch it, obviously. Pretty much watch every week. I just don't know what to expect out of that. Like, is Big Show going to get involved? Who knows? Private Parties, Isaiah Cassidy, Hangman Page. I honestly thought this match was just going to be a squash for Page. And I don't know what the general consensus was. I thought this was a really good match. I thought Isaiah Cassidy looked awesome in this. Page looked real good. They played up where they had TH2 and Matt Hardy out with Isaiah. Eventually Silver and Reynolds come out to kind of second Hangman. So from last week, basically like Dark Order was like, hey Hangman, we'll be your friends, is kind of the summation of it. I kind of like you just want to see them like teamed up in some kind of way or something. I don't know. But Page is continuing to be good. He used the Deadeye in this one because they worked on the arm. But yeah, I mean, I was more surprised by Isaiah Cassidy's performance in the match, because I don't know, and maybe it was all on Page. I don't know how it works, but it was pretty good. Poor Alan Angels gets obliterated by Hardy at the end. I feel like any wrestler should probably advocate for getting a railing put up over by that table, because everyone gets thrown off there. It is becoming the equivalent of the NXT parking lot. Teleportation expert Alex Marvez catches up with super crazy Kenny Omega. in their supposed private workspace. I don't know if Kenny Omega was going for like the Skyrim style, like blacksmith, where he's just randomly hammering on stuff, but it was just like a super weird segment. He had like the leather welder apron on and all that kind of stuff. Like, I just don't know. Next match, you had Baker and Nyla. This match was really good, I thought. I was kind of surprised that Nyla won, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just a good match. I expected Britt to win, so I don't know what the plan is, but either way, I think they both looked real good. So I don't know if Nyla has gotten way better or Britt's gotten way better or they both got way better, but like I expected a pretty okay match, but it was absolutely good. Next week, we'll hear from Paul White. I thought we were supposed to this week, but maybe time got moved. I don't know. We got... so this match was insane. If this match didn't exist, I would assume Britt and Nyla might have been match of the night kind of thing. Ray Phoenix and Lance Archer. I mean, this was just crazy. Phoenix is amazing. I can't fathom his athleticism at some of the stuff he does, where you just don't know how someone does it. I would say if you didn't see this match and you're curious, it's worth watching. It was real good. So Archer wins. They end up doing a kind of like a fist bump thing. So I guess Archer is theoretically a good guy. With Phoenix, like, I don't know. AEW is pretty good at having their alignments kind of iffy, where like certain guys can like each other, but that doesn't mean they're a good guy or a bad guy. But yeah, it was a good match. Pretty excited for the coming up Revolution. I don't know, like we'll definitely talk about Revolution, I'm sure, because I think we're going to both watch it. My work schedule, I might not even be able to watch it till Monday. Due to it being on a Sunday this week, and I work Sunday and Monday, which is lame. What can you do? So yeah, that's it. So without Saul to like kind of get his opinion, where he just hates certain people because he's doesn't like fun, we'll kind of end it there. But mostly that's just he just doesn't like the best friends, and truthfully, I can understand why someone would not like them. So. And he's not here to defend himself about how terrible they are. So, all right, we'll call it there. My plan is to be back next week. We'll find out. If not, you might get a best of again. But minimum, we'll be back the week after. But I'm going to hopefully make it work without getting sick or any dumb stuff this week. So, check you later.